Welcome to the Firefly Tutors TV podcast, where real teachers from all over the country discuss real solutions for parents and educators alike. Here's your host, Marissa Johnston.
Hello, and welcome back to The Buzz, brought to you by Firefly Tutors TV, where we talk to educators and parents all across the country on current topics affecting school children today. This is part 2 of our discussion, From A's in Elementary to F's in Middle School, What Happened, with Diane Lewis. Today we are discussing, why can't I help my child with elementary math? Thank you for joining me again, Diane.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Diane, you previously mentioned that math curriculum takes a big leap from elementary to middle school. Why are so many students struggling with elementary math?
Math is cumulative in nature, meaning that each concept builds on the next. And if a child misses even one day of school, they will experience a deficit. So during mandatory online learning during the pandemic, perhaps their cat jumped up on their lap and they began to pet their cat instead of focusing on what the teacher was explaining. They miss the concept, and unless it is revisited more than once, it will result in a void for your student.
Math can be one of those things that you blink and you've missed an entire thing, like you mentioned. If there's any type of little distraction, and these distractions can occur in the classroom as well. I know online online teaching saw a whole array of issues we never thought that we would have to address. But even in the classroom, students are struggling to stay focused, and with such huge class sizes in some cases, sometimes these students don't have the opportunity to necessarily ask questions. And then that day, the lesson's done, it's over, it might not be revisited, and the students have to build upon that because math really is one of those foundational type skills where you have to build upon your knowledge that you previously learned.
Yes.
So, what specific trends have you seen with the math curriculum?
Over the last 10 years, math vocabulary, the terminology, and applications have changed. Math doesn't change, but how we present it in the curriculum has evolved. So we're now teaching students to think like mathematicians, not just memorize math facts. And this method is how most of the world has been learning math for centuries. The assessments and the publishers of curriculum, whether it's online curriculum or actual books, have created new terms for students, and your students may not even comprehend or understand what that term means. It's not specific, and especially if in each grade level, as they advance, there's a new publisher used for their curriculum. It's very confusing for students. But a simple example of this could be in elementary school. If your student is asked to find the difference between two numbers, do they know that means subtract? More than 65% of students across the nation score below grade level in math. I feel like we're failing our children. But we also need to teach interpretive and analytical skills using math word problems. These essential skills help us apply math in our daily lives.
It does, and it's so important for kids to have that real world application. And I know a lot of people, they shy away from tests. We don't want to label our kids based on a test score, but we want them to be successful. And to hear that percentage, 65% of students in the US scored below grade level in math, that is frightening. And
it is.
We want kids to be successful. I used to tell my fourth graders just how much they would rely on those basic multiplication skills in their everyday life into adulthood. I would tell them, guys, when you want to figure out sales tax, you have to know percentages and multiplication and decimals and all that kind of stuff. Oh, I know But what do we do? How can we help? How I know parents, the question is, why can't I help my kids with elementary math? But what's a solution here?
Hiring a tutor can make a huge difference for your child, and it takes the pressure off you as a parent. And what I recommend is when you have a tutor, whether it's a tutor who comes to your home or you're going to be having a tutor help your student online, um, sit in an adjacent room where your student cannot see you, but listen in, because you as a parent will gain a lot of insight on how to help your child as well. Your child is going to learn not only the language of math that is essential to moving forward and succeeding in the subject, but they will gain confidence. They will be able to start memorizing the actual process of how to solve math problems and then apply it in their daily activities. Math is all around us. We can't get away from math, and it's really a fun subject once we gain that confidence. But I know some kids can have huge meltdowns because math is difficult for them. We want them to gain that sense of math being fun, because it really plays a big role in everything we do in life.
Math really is all around us and especially in our everyday lives. But I really want to circle back to the vocabulary of math and just the various ways that you can even tell or instruct someone to add, add, find the sum, find the total, which sometimes can also be multiplication, but just all these ways to convey that the student is supposed to take the two numbers, maybe more, but the two numbers and put them together, combine them. That's another way to say add. And I
Yes.
know that even, presented to them on worksheets or assessments or quizzes, anything, it'll say compute. And
Yes.
yeah, they're just supposed to know, oh, I have to just solve the problem.
Yes. And some fun ways that tutors will help your child learn the math terminology could be more sensory interactive. Perhaps you have construction paper and the tutor can create gigantic flashcards and have all these terms on the floor with your child, and then on the back have an example of what that term means in a math equation. And they'll play a game and your child can have rewards, and that sense of winning and learning at the same time. And the more senses we utilize in the learning process, the more we comprehend and retain information. It's true for all of us. Besides, it makes learning more fun.
And I know you've also previously mentioned, how important it is to build a child's confidence when they're learning. And I know that praise really comes in with that. We want confident learners. We want students who who are also courageous. They take on those problems and they go, I will solve it, because then that courage also lends itself to finding a solution. Instead of
Yeah.
trying it once and giving up, they're going to say, well, that didn't work, maybe another way.
Very true. I love that idea of being solution oriented rather than giving up. And that's called resiliency as well. And teaching our students to think in a way that they can solve. Because when we just teach our students to memorize math facts, what we're doing is we are squelching innovation and creativity. And that will be detrimental to our society if we don't build that sense of creativity and innovation. We want students to be able to think and create on their own, because that's what builds a more prolific and magnificent society.
Now, you brought up math facts, and I know this can be kind of a hot topic for parents these days because they had to memorize their math facts most of the time when they were in school. And I have heard often, it worked for me. Why do we have to change it? So, Diane, what insight can you provide on the way math is being taught today in the United States, um, and why? Why are we teaching kids this way?
Yes. So it's not that memorizing the math facts is bad, but like we just talked about, Marissa, we want our students to be able to apply math in a way that is going to help them manage their lives as they move forward and have to make real life decisions. Just learning basic telling time and how to read, make sure when they're changing time zones, when they're flying to a different country, they know how to compute that in their head. They're figuring it out, and they're not just waiting for the pilot when they land to tell them what time it is, or what time their flight is going to be. It could be an array of things like that. It could be as simple as money management. If we're not teaching our students how to manage time and money, those are essential for moving forward into adulthood. And I notice that even going shopping with a teenager sometimes, if they can't figure out, well, okay, if something costs $100, but it's 10% off, how much will they actually be spending on that item that is 10% off? How do they figure that out? Or when they're at the grocery store and it's a certain dollar amount per pound for the produce, how do they figure that out? What is it actually going to cost them? A lot of even teenagers cannot figure it out without using, even with a calculator, they don't know where to begin to create an equation in their mind. So even staying on a budget, this money management, to stay on a budget and actually learn to save and manage their money in a responsible way, and how to use credit effectively if they are going to purchase a large item like a vehicle, their first car, and they're going to borrow money. What does it mean to use that percentage rate, and how much money will they end up paying over time for that vehicle?
Right. It is an everyday skill that kids have to be able to learn now to apply later. And I know you mentioned, just those skills, almost like mental math, that they have to be able to do, and they have to know how to manipulate the numbers in order to find their answers to their everyday life. I mean, for lack of a better word, problems that pop up. Um,
Yes.
so one other thing that you made me think of was understanding that multiplication is the same as repeated addition. That is one area that I think, with Common Core curriculum and everything coming about in the past 10 years, people have kind of looked at it and said, why are we breaking it down so small? But honestly, as a teacher, when I was teaching it myself, it helped me understand better how to do those mental math things and how to get to an answer, stuff like that. So, understanding that division is repeated subtraction and addition, or repeated addition, is multiplication, kind of building those connections along with kids to help them manipulate the numbers and work with numbers and not be so afraid of numbers too, and to help them understand there's more than one way to get your right answer.
Yes. And I like to use the word interpret rather than manipulate numbers with math. I think interpretive skills are highly essential to everything we're discussing today. And also, I don't necessarily support Common Core math over a different kind of math. I think every child learns differently. We all learn differently. We all have our strengths and different ways that we take in information and retain information. So a tutor will really help find those hidden talents and the best ways for a student to learn and teach toward those strengths of theirs. And they'll find new ways, whether it's using Legos to demonstrate a math problem or using a big number line and helping your students see how it all comes together on a number line. There are so many ways to teach math, and so hiring a professional can take a lot of pressure off of parents.
Yes, it can. I highly recommend hiring a tutor as well. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Diane. This discussion has been wonderful.
Same for me, Marissa. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed our discussion today, please like Firefly Tutors on all your social media hubs like Facebook and Instagram. Find us on Pinterest, where we pin all of our favorite resources for parents and tutors. At Firefly Tutors, we believe every student deserves the opportunity to develop to their highest potential. See you next time on The Buzz.